What's up? This is Cedric McMillan. Listen, get your ass down to the MD Supplement Superstore. Peace.
Next question.
How was your process? Like, you know, everybody wants to be a pro. How was your process coming from training by yourself to when you became pro?
Yeah, the last part. How did it change?
How was your process from 2002 to 2005? Training by yourself?
To be honest, when I first started training, I didn't have a training program. It really wasn't up until I won my first couple of pro shows, and I trained at a different gym because I moved in another part of town, that I realized that I'm probably not going to have a training program. Reason being is because when I was first starting out, I was still in college, and then when I got out of college, I was working. So I would just surround myself around people. I worked at the Valley, so I had friends that worked there too, so we would just take lunch hour and work together. As a pro, I started working with Hany, and he would tell me, okay, I want you to work at like 2:30 or 3 o'clock. Well, who gets off of work at that time? Maybe some guys do, but not a lot of guys. And for me, I grew up as an only child, so I really like my alone time. Well, you pretty much want to, so you know what I'm talking about. I mean, so I just don't mind. I'm sorry, I just don't like it when I'm having to hear someone yell in my ear the whole time. You know, like, lift that, do this, do that. I'm like, man, I had a drill sergeant in college and high school telling me to run and jump and get on the floor and do all this other stuff. Now I just want to do me and just be focused about the workout. Now when I do train with Hany, he understands what works for me. He doesn't have to yell at me. He knows just to kind of take my headphones off and whisper in my ear, I need you to do 5 more repetitions and hold it at the top, or point your toes, or contract, or something like that. But
I think the other thing is, this thing's really loud. Phil is a very instinctual trainer. So what he tends to do is he tends to like to go to the gym. If I tell him, you know, try to get 3 meals in before you go to the gym, what he tends to do is get at least 3 meals in. But sometimes it'll be 5, sometimes it'll be 6. And so he's not going to want somebody sitting there waiting for him to work out, or if he feels that he needs to do 1 more or 2 more meals because it's a big leg day, or if he's working, you know, his back and he needs to get 5 meals in, or, you know, the magazine's call and they need to do an interview right away, and the person is supposed to be meeting him in 30 minutes, and now all of a sudden the guy's sitting there waiting. I think that's another thing about his lifestyle, is that was going to be very short-lived with that training partner, because that training partner is going to expect him to be there at a certain time. And 90% of the time, when Phil wakes up in the morning, he doesn't know when he's going to train. It might be after 3 meals, it might be after 5 meals. So between, you know, all those obligations as being Mr. Olympia or even a pro bodybuilder for you know, since 05, all the way down to the fact that he has to turn around and do, you know, responsibilities with his wife, you know, his child, all the other things that go along with his business. There's so many different things going on that the last thing you want to do is have to worry about whether or not to meet the guy in the gym and train legs. So a lot of that has to do with that as well. I know even Jay is like that, and you know, he has a little entourage that tends to train with him sometimes, but at the end of the day, you know, he just picks and chooses depending on how he feels when he's going to train.
Some muscle groups seem like they're a little bit stubborn in training. I've seen some videos where you said that you worked on your delts, especially lateral delts. Do you have any tips for developing your calves?
there's a couple of jokes that we used to talk about when it came to calf training and stuff. No, to be serious, I mean, I remember Hany actually writing out a protocol for me to train calf like 2 if not 3 times a week. Really, it was just more getting volume in there. I remember doing ladders where it was on a pin loaded standing calf raise machine where you could choose the weight, do it for 10 reps, work the pin down, another 10, and work the pin all the way down as heavy as you can go, and then try to pick up 10 and then work all the way back up. And then that's 1 set. And then we do that like 3 times, and then we go through like the regular calf routine, like on leg press or, you know, seated calf raises, things of that nature. But my thing was to make sure that I was always getting good good contraction at the top of everything, and not always just, you know, use it. Like, I always try to watch other people train before I even do something, and here I am 2 times Mr Olympia. Like, I try to watch, all right, this guy's doing calves, and he's like bouncing up and down, and I'm like, he's rattling, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, he's range of movements like this. And I'm trying to make sure that I don't do the same thing. So instead of staring at your face in the mirror and all this other stuff, it's like making sure that you're getting the maximum, you know, contraction at the top, but you're also getting a stretch at the bottom. You know, calves are just one of those really stubborn muscle groups that you don't see a ton of guys have well developed. Partly it's probably because they don't train it often enough, and they don't train it good enough. This goes back to the whole practice makes perfect mentality. Their intensity is there, but their technique fails. It's something to where you could go 10 reps and be able to hold, you know, each rep at the top for a second. And I guarantee you probably use one less weight. You know, it's just playing around with different, you know, tempo, and then also making sure your range of motion is there.
What would you advise, or would you know would be safe diuretic for shedding water really before contests?
Well, there's many over-the-counter diuretics. Most of them are going to be based in some B vitamins or some dandelion root. Those are the ones that are the safest. Obviously, there's going to be different combinations. Also, vitamin C is a diuretic. Sometimes we'll add vitamin C to it, or you take vitamin C separately and add it in addition to, which is things that we've done in the past actually for field shows. But it's the basics is going to be like a dandelion root and vitamin C and some bees, and those are the ways to go. Like, there's a lot of name brands out there that are specifically made for that.
Right, would B6 be one of those?
Absolutely, B6 is very good.
But then also, you know, like what we've talked about in shows past, like our sodium intake and stuff like that, being able to shed more water by reducing that as well.
Yeah.
Going into the last, you know, few weeks and dropping more sodium, not salting my foods as much, has helped out tremendously. And then also ingesting a lot more water per meal. One thing that I know I've done is, you know, you go to the gym, chill out, guys, holding like a gallon jug and stuff like that. But for me, I remember talking to a doctor friend of mine, he goes, well, why don't you take your total amount of water that you drink and split them up into 8s and drink those with your meals and see if your urine is the same color as if you were when you go to the gym with a gallon jug. The gallon jug would be clear. If I split that up into 8 servings, it'd be yellow. And I noticed that I was always dehydrated, so I was trying to get into more water throughout that time period. And I started to find that hydration for me was important because I can go without drinking water all day, and that's probably because I played basketball. But we had to understand that your body has to be hydrated for it to work during that last period to deplete the fluid as well. A lot of guys will actually go into a prep like already dehydrated, but yet you're still trying to excrete fluid. Your body's not going to allow that to happen. And no matter if they're good over the counter or even if you got a prescription diuretic, it's just going to make matters worse. So the biggest thing that we try to do is make sure that I'm actually hydrated going into that process and doing everything that we can with the vitamin C, with, you know, dandelion root extract. I mean, it actually works out pretty good if you do it right, and you won't get in trouble doing whatever normal jungle people have heard at the gym and this and that. And Hany has always told me, like, you know, when you start trying to listen to Joe Blow at the gym about certain things to do, they can make you 5% better or 20% worse. And that's when you usually see guys at the gym or even at the show. They're like, well, last week I didn't look like that. Well, because you probably had more fat on you, and you had some guy at the gym say, oh no, you just close right in and it's just water. We hear that stuff all the time. We hear it as pros, they'll tell us, they'll be like, yeah, how do I look? Phil, how do I look on it? And I'd be like, and I'd be like, damn. And then we'll see them pose. Y'all probably know this is George right now, but I mean, seriously, they'll literally come up to us and say, you know, how do I look? And I'm thinking, well, he looks pretty good, but maybe that's as good as you can get. But when we're thinking, he probably needs his diet part of it, it's too late now. It's like 5 days away from the show. There's no magic. So doing everything right, you know, making sure that, you know, it reduces inflammation as well, like with the vitamin C and things like that too. And those are different things that, you know, Hany's really good about. I mean, I can give you a list of just things that you would find like a GNC, you know, like all these different supplements, you know, B6, vitamin C, you know, fish oils, you know, glucose, chondroitin, I mean, I had really bad joint pain, and he was able to kind of eliminate that. So that's one of those things that hiring someone like him kind of helps. But going into what you're saying, really is just making sure you're hydrated going into that process, and then maybe peeling back your stomach and just doing what Hany says with vitamin C.
What's up? This is Cedric McMillan. Listen, get your ass down to the MD Supplement Superstore. Peace.